You're here because it's time to kill yourself off. I know. That is the dramatic and somehow catchy hook line they influence you with on this topic. I think it's harsh. I prefer to say, out with the old you, in with the new you. There's nothing back there for you anymore. This, of course, as I referenced, is a topic in a popular self-improvement concept that seems simple, yet awfully difficult to ascertain. Now, let me try and explain. Imagine, if you would, getting into a car, you arrange the rear view mirrors, make sure the seat is set to your liking, and once you're comfortable, you turn the engine on. Maybe it's a push start. Maybe you got the old school key. You shift the gear to reverse, and while looking forward, you press the gas and you go. Now, we'd all agree that doing this is not a good idea or generally recommended because it's highly likely you'll crash. Yet if you find yourself unable to create the life you want and see for yourself, then this is exactly what you are doing. And if you don't change now, this would go on into perpetuity. And that would suck, right? For the baseline fundamental for any change in life is to no longer identify with the version of yourself. That's why we say kill yourself off, that you no longer want to be. Think about that line. And I get that it's not as simple as it sounds. Out with the old, in with the new. You need to no longer identify, associate, align, link, connect, or any other word in any possible language that would describe what you think and who you think you are today. For the truth to that is, it's not really real. There's nothing back there for you anymore except the repeating of the past, which is past. And this is really a game of beginning to think faithfully, which I can't begin to tell you is far more complex than we even allow ourselves to fathom, but also not as common as you would expect, because most of us cease to be creators of life and default into conformity, which there's just a great quote from Rollo May, and I'm going to sum it up, and he sums it up in a really dope way. The opposite of courage in our society is not cowardice. It is conformity. And there you have the trouble today. It's conformity. People acting like everyone else without knowing why. Your thoughts create emotions and moods and have an impact on your physical state, which then impacts your spirit, your determination, your faith. So if you're constantly thinking like the old you'll get the same physical, emotional, and spiritual reaction. And there needs to be a reality that those thoughts, feelings, and emotions, as I have said, but it's worth repeating over and over again, talking about out with the old, none of that is currently happening. So by definition, it's no longer real. Now, of course, they're real in that they've happened, but again, they're no longer happening. However, habitually revisiting those thoughts and experience recreates a current reality that you identify with, creating emotions and a state of being. You know, the whole how you feel thing in life, how you feel about you, which technically is no longer real. And I continue to emphasize again and again, real, because in order to see and experience a new life for yourself, you need to think of a version of you that won't immediately feel real. Because truthfully, how could you possibly identify with that person when you also don't have the standard proof associated with anything that would influence you to believe and have faith in this person you see? All the while, the old you, the past difficulties are screaming at you, telling you this is impossible. And truth be told, that version of you, out with the old and with the new, is not real to anyone but you, because technically only you can see it, which can feel weird and delusional. I've been there. So the default mechanism then is to continue repeating whatever it is you are today, which technically is all based on a lot of yesterdays. I'm beating this shit into the ground. Some yesterdays that died decades ago. Out with the old you. And now how do we create the new you? There's some non-negotiables off the rip that most of us probably don't want to hear because they aren't immediately sexy or immediate. Things like patience, planning, foresight, diligence, and here is that word again, faith. And along the lines of faith, the Bible, pretty popular book, it says, for we walk by faith, not by sight. Neville Goddard, the law of assumption, that states, by believing the thing you already exists or the thing you want already exists in your life, you'll manifest it into existence. Faith, from a consciousness perspective, creating the version of you and imprinting it into your mind through thought. The subconscious never fails to express that which has been impressed upon it. You have to believe that you are already there. And yes, the hardest thing to do is give time. So let's make this simple, because this is what it always comes down to for me. Let's forget about attempting to manifest the material wealth that is usually common because of the whole conformity and cowardice thing I referenced earlier, right? Big house, big car, big money, big spender life. I'm not saying you can't. What I'm saying is it's bigger for me. This breaks down like this to me and why I believe it's powerful enough and you should give it a shot. Would you really rather constantly think about what has happened and then what hasn't happened in your life over and over and over? Would you really want to think about all the times things didn't work out and somehow then believe that because it hasn't happened before, it will never happen? Do you really want to wake up dreading your existence, your one life? Think about what I am saying here. I believe that if you really gave yourself time to think about who you want to be in life, you would come to the realization that you just really want a little more graciousness, gratitude, and peace. That you could have meaningful relationships that were joyful, full of laughter, and great times. And that those relationships already exist in some capacity, whether at home, at work, or socially abroad. And most importantly, with yourself. And none of it implies that there won't be hardships, obstacles, or trials. But when those inevitable circumstances come up, wouldn't you want to deal with them from a place of peace versus dread? And look, we don't all need to be destined to be under the bright lights and on stage to have meaning in life. We can all have that within ourselves, to ourselves, and for ourselves. And all it really requires is to sit with yourself a few minutes a day and consider through thought who you could still be as opposed to who you've already been. And then maybe when you do have some time to look back, as opposed to crashing, you can actually see the distance you have traveled. Out with the old, in with the new. Kill yourself off. Change your mind, change your life. I am who I say I am. Stay rich.